It's time now for A Week in France, our roundup of the major headlines making French news over the past 7 days. It was a murder that shocked France and alarmed the government. Mehdi Kessaci, the younger brother of anti-drug activist Amine Kessaci, was shot and killed in broad daylight on November 13th in what authorities believed was a warning to silence Amine. If that proves true, it's backfired on the drug gangs because Amine has vowed to stand up to intimidation and keep telling the truth about drug violence. Thousands are expected to join a silent march today in Marseille to pay tribute to the slain 20-year-old. The French government has introduced new measures meant to help in the fight against drug trafficking. Solange Moujon has more.
May we stand up and fight together. That is the rallying call of Amine Kessaci. At just 22, he has become the face of France's fight against drugs.
The more people who speak out, the less we'll have to fear. Today, there are hundreds of us fighting this battle. But let's mobilize even more. That will guarantee protection for everyone.
An environmental activist in Marseille, it's his family's tragedy that transformed Kessaci into one of the nation's most outspoken voices against drug trafficking. Following the murder of his brother Brahim in 2020 and what is thought to have been a settling of scores among drug dealers, Amine Kessaci launched an association to speak out against drug violence. Death threats ensued. And then tragedy struck again. 20-year-old Mehdi Kessaci, who'd hoped to become a police officer, was shot and killed in broad daylight in Marseille. Police believe it is what they call a warning assassination, to try and silence his older brother. In an opinion piece in Le Monde, the activist wrote, "While we count our dead, what is the government doing?" A plea he repeated on national television.
Let's stop all these announcements. I've been campaigning against drug trafficking for over 5 years. Hundreds of families have been devastated. It's time for action.
With plans for a national brigade against drug trafficking already in the works, French officials say the murder has marked a turning point in a collective consciousness. And Amine Kessaci has vowed to keep up loud and clear that fight.
For more on this, we can bring in Federico Varese, sociology professor at the Center for European Studies and Comparative Politics and an expert on organized crime in Europe. Federico, thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
My pleasure.
Now, I want to begin with this brazen daytime murder. This really shocked everyone here in France, especially after officials believe that it may actually have been orchestrated from prison. So what does this tell us about the reach of organized crime in Marseille?
Well, it's a very significant murder because it's a murder to silence an activist, and clearly is a murder against a social society, civil society that fights against organized crime. It shows that civil society can be very effective, in fact, and very dangerous for organized crime. It also shows that the technique used by very serious groups, such as the Sicilian Mafia, which also targeted relatives of people who turn state witnesses as well as activists, has been used in France now. So I do think it's a significant event and, of course, a very tragic one, too.
Now, Amine Kessaci, we heard in that report that he's not going to stop speaking out. He's warned the French authorities that he says it's a life or death struggle with organized crime. Do you agree with his assessment?
Well, I think we should be very clear what we are talking about here. We're not just talking about groups that sell drugs. We are talking about groups that want to control the territory, that want to control communities that are not well integrated and don't turn to the state if they have a problem. So I think the issue here is not just about drugs, but it's really about social problems, social situations in which the community is now under the control of an organized crime group. So in that sense, it's very similar to traditional mafias. And I do agree with him that this is a fundamental threat to democracy, ultimately, in the French state.
Now, Federico, you mentioned there impoverished cities. I mean, Marseille is France's second city, but yes, it definitely has pockets of poverty, and criminal gangs are appealing in those impoverished neighborhoods. So what can the government do to counter that appeal?
That's a very important point. The first thing to remember is that this is also a social problem. It's not just a criminal problem. And if you want to, first of all, prevent young people from joining the gangs, we need to take the problem at the beginning, make sure that schools are well endowed, and there is a pathway for young people to get out of the drugs situation, of drugs environment. For instance, there is a lot of discrimination, even among people who have to hire young people, for those who come from those neighborhoods. And that is a very important problem. So for me, the most important issue is not to consider this just a criminal problem. It is certainly a criminal problem, but also a social problem. And there should be coordination between social services, education, job market opportunities, and of course, policing the situation.
Now, the French government in June passed a new anti-drugs law, and French ministers visited Marseille. They vowed, more support. The interior minister said he was willing to go to the city once a month. The other ministers have said that they want to bring counterterrorism style policing to stamp out drug crime in Marseille. Is that the right approach?
Well, I think it shouldn't be just the Minister of Interior Affairs to go to Marseille, but it should be the Minister of Education and Social Services. So I think to militarize the response is not the best way to go forward. You can also see what happened in Brazil just a few weeks ago in Rio de Janeiro. Those military attacks or military operations do not change anything on the ground. The social situation remains the same. The moment the army leaves, the drug traffickers, they continue to control the territory. And they want to control the territory beyond just selling drugs, but to control social life as well and social order. So for me, certainly we need a police response, and we need to arrest the criminals who commit a crime, especially such a gruesome crime. But that's not the solution. And we know that from many, many other countries, that there is a organized crime of this kind is a social and political and economic problem, not just a criminal problem. I think that's the key message.
Okay, Federico, I have just one last question for you here. I just want to bring out this number. There was a report in the Senate that said that drug trafficking revenues are estimated at 7 billion euros. That's 70% of the entire budget of the Justice Ministry, and that 250,000 people are believed to live off this parallel economy there. So how concerned should we be about the growing influence of organized crime on politics and the economy? And to what extent is this a threat in Europe?
It's a threat all over Europe. We should be aware that production is skyrocketing in Colombia. Production of cocaine has increased 53%, according to the UN report. 10% more of land is under production of cocaine in Colombia from 2 years ago to last year. So this is not just a French problem. Drugs are coming into Italy, of course, in Calabria. They also come into France, Le Havre, Rotterdam, Amsterdam, and then they are distributed across the continent. So certainly there should be a European response in collaboration, strong collaboration with the producing countries such as Colombia.
Federico, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your expertise with us on the program. That's Federico Varese, sociology professor at the Center for European Studies and Comparative Politics.
Thank you.
Now, the Louvre, unfortunately, can't seem to catch a break. Now, one of the museum's galleries has been shut since Monday because of structural weakness. Recent criticism has focused on lax security since a brazen jewelry heist last month. Now it's turning to basic upkeep amid warnings that major work needs to be undertaken at the world's most visited museum. Selena Sykes has more.
Disappointment for visitors. As well as not being able to admire the jewellery stolen from the Louvre a month ago, the Campana Gallery is off limits.
It's unfortunate, it's sad. In a city like Paris, it's a bit of a shame, especially for tourists who traveled here for the occasion. I hope we can fix it.
I think they must have seen it before. If it was really done in a hurry, they could certainly have detected the problem beforehand.
The most important thing is to take care of our heritage and our most beautiful assets.
The gallery seen here is located on the first floor. It has 9 rooms containing Greek ceramics. According to a report by experts, the structural issues come from the floor above, which has particularly fragile floors and beams. After being questioned by MPs, the Louvre's management and architects said that major work needs to be done throughout the museum.
The floors we're talking about were made of concrete in 1937, cobbled together over planks and wood. So there are lots of DIY jobs like this that are completely worn out. That's the pitfall you mustn't fall into. Being under pressure and doing a little bit here, a little bit there. That's what we've been doing for 30 years.
Unions, too, are warning about the general state of the museum.
It's unprecedented to have to close spaces to the public due to risk of collapse. One wonders when the authorities will finally grasp the overall problem of a structure that has not been maintained as it should have been in recent years.
As well as renovation, the Louvre is in the process of bulking up its security. A month after the brazen heist, the museum's director has announced the installation of 100 new cameras and the introduction of police officers on site.
And now a reason for wine lovers around the world to celebrate. November means the release of this year's Beaujolais Nouveau. The French wine region of Beaujolais lies just north of Lyon between Burgundy and the Rhone Valley. Last year, more than 14 million bottles of the young wine were sold. Daniel Quinlan has the details.
A tradition that signals the end of the harvest and the beginning of a celebration. Just after midnight on the third Thursday of November, bottles of the latest vintage of Beaujolais Nouveau are uncorked in Lyon, France, and around the world.
Actually, my friend invited me, but it's really, really good. It's really, c'est parfait.
The tradition began in the 1950s when local winemakers wanted to celebrate the end of the harvest, so they bottled the young wine and shared it locally. The idea caught on and soon Parisian cafes and bars joined in the celebration, and then wine lovers around the world. And here at least 2025 seems to be another hit. But despite the good reviews, it's not all good news.
We're a bit on the fence. On one hand, we're happy about the vintage we're going to release because it's going to be an exceptional one for the taste, for everything, for the wine. But then we have very low yields.
Last year, more than 14 million bottles of Beaujolais Nouveau were sold around the world. France came in first. Japan was the second largest buyer, followed by the US and the UK.